In this video, I'm going to talk about the three main sources of disability income insurance. So we have three main sources: government, workers' compensation, and private disability insurance policies. So let's talk about each of those in turn. So for government disability income insurance, in the United States, this is basically linked to the Social Security disability benefits. So this is coming from the federal government and can provide some level of benefits if a worker becomes disabled or an individual becomes disabled. Now, if you think about that and start looking at what they pay out, this probably for most people, for the purposes of planning, should be viewed as more of a starting point, not a full replacement for an income if disability occurs. But that is one source of disability income insurance, is the government through Social Security disability benefits. The second source that we're going to look at is workers' compensation. Now, for workers' compensation, this is going to be specifically for injuries maintained or sustained on the job. So if you are actively engaged in your job and say you're on a job site or at your employer's office and a pile of boxes owned by your employer falls over on you, something like that. You're working and a disability creating event occurs while you are on the job. That's where workers' compensation is going to kick in. Now, in some cases, the level of protection may actually depend upon what choices the employee made previously. So oftentimes during the open enrollment periods for health insurance, typically companies will often have elections or options for individuals to choose whether they would like to participate in voluntary or additional disability insurance plans. So the employer may pay for certain types of, maybe longer term disability if you're disabled for, say, more than 6 months or something, and they're due to an accident that occurs on the job. They may cover something pertaining to that in your benefits, maybe up to a certain point. But if we are looking at, well, what about maybe that interim period, maybe you get disabled, you're out for 6 months, but then you come back. In that case, it's possible a longer term policy may not kick in. But if the employee had elected to also participate in a shorter term disability policy, then that may kick in after a much more limited window of perhaps a couple of weeks, lasting up to, say, 6 months or whenever the other policy might kick in. So how much disability coverage an employee would have does depend on what choices the employee made in many cases. So that's something to be mindful of. Now, interestingly, statistically, most disabilities originate outside the workplace. And the reason why that's important is that workers' compensation insurance will not cover that because you were not working at the time. So if you are not in the workplace working and you wind up with a disability, perhaps you're in a car accident while driving to the grocery store on a Saturday, then in that case, workers' compensation does not cover that. And so unless you made a private choice that may have been offered through your employer for disability insurance that wasn't linked to your job, then, which we'll talk about that in a moment, then basically the workers' compensation is not going to be involved. So it's just up to whatever other disability choices you made and what they cover. But workers' compensation would not be involved. So that brings us to option 3, and that's private disability insurance policies. So it's possible that your employer may make available or at least additional worker or additional disability insurance that is not linked to whether the injury occurred on the job. That would be something you'd want to inquire of before you purchase any kind of disability insurance through your employer. If it's additional disability insurance, is this additional insurance going to cover me in the event that I have a disability that's not related to the workplace? And if that's the case, then this is more of a private disability insurance policy because it's covering wherever you are, not just when you're at work. So that would be something that you, the individual, would be purchasing that would cover you wherever the disability occurred. And obviously, you'd want to evaluate the coverage amounts you would have total across the different kind of disability insurance you have. But that'll be a topic for discussion in a subsequent video. Hopefully, this clarifies the three main sources of disability income insurance. And hopefully, have a great day, and thanks for watching.